Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Emily Studley. I'm the program coordinator for the Entrepreneurs Leadership Program at the Center for Entrepreneurship in the College of Engineering at University of Michigan. Today, we're going to talk about the Entrepreneurs Leadership Program. I'm happy to be joined by three guests. We have Bryant, Margot, and Deepti. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's start with a round of introductions. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement in ELP.
Hi, my name is Deepti Pandey. I am a master's student at the School of Information at the University of Michigan. I'm currently in the ELP program 2020, so that's ELP's fifth cohort, and I'm really excited to be here.
I'm Bryant. I am currently the Chief Technology Officer of a startup called Dexter. We're an education startup that is building the world's first educational live streaming platform, as well as running our own full-time school. I was a part of ELP 1, so the first cohort, the guinea pigs, as Matt Gibson would say. I studied computer science when I was in Michigan. I graduated in 2018.
Hi, I'm Margot Fortin. I am an incoming junior at the University of Michigan, majoring in information analysis in the School of Information and minoring in hopefully business and food science. I was in ELP 4, the one that just ended before the newest cohort. And I hope to ultimately just apply entrepreneurship and ELP lessons to the sustainable food industry.
So why did each of you decide to join ELP?
Okay, sweet. I totally by happenstance, if I was being honest, is because I wanted to secure an internship my sophomore year summer, because I had absolutely no prospects whatsoever. And I was walking down the hall of the dude going to a class, and I saw Eric Basinski on it's one of those fold out tables with a sign that said, "Do you guys want an internship?" I'm like, yes, I do want an internship. So I went up and talked to him. And then he kind of told me more about the program and what they were trying to build for the inaugural cohort. And I actually found that a lot of what they wanted to do with ELP was really aligned with what I was interested in. I was studying computer science, and it was obviously in tech, there's startups everywhere. That's kind of the name of the game for most people. I thought it would be a really awesome opportunity. So I applied, and I actually did get in my first time around. Yeah, I was totally by happenstance, and turned out to be a really awesome opportunity for me. It's my origin story for ELP.
Nice. I'm so glad it worked out for you. Margot, how about you?
So part of it was definitely the internship help. And also I knew I was interested in entrepreneurship. So getting an internship at a startup was very exciting, that possibility for me. Another big part of it for me was that I had started a company in high school and knew that I was interested in entrepreneurship and had learned a lot while doing that. I co-founded it with my sister. And while we were working on the project together, it was just learning very quickly and very sporadic, and the opportunity to learn about entrepreneurship in a classroom setting was very interesting to me. And I wanted to see how I could add to my entrepreneurial skills that I had learned pretty much in the field with classroom setting, and just meet people along the way that were interested in similar things.
I was involved in startups before, in nonprofits, and also kind of co-founded a startup in my undergraduate program. And I knew that I was really interested in something like that, but I couldn't place my finger on what exactly I wanted. So that was something that I wanted to explore a bit more. And I learned, even when I was looking up programs from all over the world, I came across the Center for Entrepreneurship. A lot of people recommended that it's one of the best programs to get into. And it was definitely one of the reasons I considered the University of Michigan, because of the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem that is encouraged here, along with the other kind of studies that people do. So I definitely wanted to be a part of the program, and so I applied, and I got in.
So looking back at your time in ELP, what is your most memorable moment and why?
I can go first. I guess for me, it would probably be the first Woost trek that we went to, just because it was obviously going to on a trip across the country with your school was first of all really cool, just because it's you feel like an athlete and you get to fly around the country and stuff. I remember I believe it was spring break of I want to say 2016. I'm not entirely, I don't fully remember, but I remember it was a really interesting kind of eye-opening experience for us, for everyone in that cohort, because I think it was the first time that a lot of us got exposure to kind of behind the scenes of a lot of startups. So we talked to my future boss, actually, Jeff Schock, got to see his offices and kind of talk about the patent process, as well as being kind of like the guy for YC, and then talking to a bunch of other founders in the area and like Michigan alum. And it was just a really, really cool experience to have as a college student, something that I never thought I'd be able to do, like that was like funded by the school.
For sure. All right, Deepti, how about you so far? Although it's only been a semester.
Yeah, it's only been a semester, and what a semester this was. Half of it was, remote, but right before that hit, we went on the next trip, which was the Washington, D.C. and New York trip. And it was really interesting to learn about all these. When we do case studies in school, or when we look up things by ourselves, it's usually about the success stories. What was really unique about this trip was we also learned about failure stories, success stories, the journeys, people who are still at it right now, venture capitalists, and about the whole ecosystem and how different components come together to make it how it is. And that was really interesting for me to learn. I think we went within like 3 weeks, within like 3 days, we covered so many places, and we got challenges to solve and really got into how problems come to these small ventures and how to solve it and how they become from really small to even $1 billion company.
My best memories did come from my internship I had, where I was working with 2 other ELP members, which was very exciting for me. Just coming out of my freshman year, I was thrown into New York City working at a startup. I didn't know anybody in the city except for these 2 ELP friends that were working at the same company as me. And it was just a great learning experience. I felt like I was thrown into so many projects, and everyone trusted me for some reason, even though I was a kid, and everyone wanted to hear my opinions and wanted me to give my advice on projects. And it just helped my confidence in especially a business way a ton. Whereas I also learned a ton just about work styles. And by working alongside, I had one other ELP person who's on the business side of the company with me. The other one was in the engineering side, but working along her, she's older than me, and I always looked up to her, and I was like, she's gonna be so successful, she's so amazing. And I just got to watch the way that she worked, and while she was watching the way I worked, and it was just very special to me, because by the end of the summer, she would make comments about how impressed she was by how I was doing and my work style. And it was just cool to see how differently we both worked, but how we both were helping the company in a big way, and were kind of impressed by each other's work. So it was a lot of fun being in New York and being with ELP people throughout the summer.
What was your internship?
I worked at a startup called Mighty. It's a law tech startup. It was very interesting, a lot of learning experience, and it was a Michigan founder company. So that's how I ended up getting it through ELP. And it was cool. It was a very small company, around 30 people. So one big office space, and it felt very startup-y, which was kind of what I wanted. Everyone was sitting right next to each other. I was sitting in the chair next to my manager and next to my boss, and the CFO was behind the curtain next to me. So it was pretty cool.
So kind of speaking about startups, why should someone intern at a startup?
Oh, that's easy. You take an enormous amount of ownership. I think a lot of people, particularly students, have this misconception that you go through college and you get your first job and you're kind of at the low level and you kind of just work your way up. I think at least in tech, and particularly in computer science graduates, Michigan does a really good job of kind of training you to work at Facebook or Google or Apple or whatever. But the reality is a lot of those companies, you're not going to really see your code. And I'm speaking from a purely engineering perspective. You don't really see your code shipped in a way that matters, if that makes sense. A lot of the times it's you spend 6 months on a project, and that project either scrapped or is refactored and retooled, and you don't really get to see the fruits of your labor. I think a lot of interns in particular, if you work at a startup, you take a lot of ownership over whatever project you're working on. I think as an intern, that's a really valuable skill to have, and that's a very valuable experience to go through.
Yeah, I agree a lot with that. Like I said, it's just very cool to have that much responsibility as a student. No matter how old you are, it's just a ton of responsibility. You can truly impact a company in one summer. And I also think a startup is really cool because of mentorship that you can get very easily. Like I said, my manager was sitting in the seat right next to me, and we talked pretty much daily, and he was amazing. And we would go on walks in the New York City parks together to talk about his career and what he would advise me on doing in my career. And he had started a successful company that he had left, and it was at 3,000 people or more by the time he transferred to working at my company. So just having direct access to him, and him willing to give me his time and advise me on how I should pursue my career, I feel like is very startup-y. Like that would never happen at a massive corporate company.
Yeah, I feel like if somebody is confused about what exactly they want to do, the best thing to do would be to just join a small startup, which has a lot of stuff to do, and then you can put on as many hats as you want. Maybe do software engineering with product management, with marketing, and all of that is possible because the startup is strapped for cash, and there is all of this work to be done, but there's only so many people to do it. So that way, it's really easy to weed out your options, to understand if entrepreneurship is for you. Maybe you see yourself rising to the top at some point, or being one of the first few employees has a kick of its own. Even if you're not the founder, it's really beneficial to be there in the beginning before it becomes huge.
So how has ELP affected your understanding of entrepreneurship?
Before I was a part of ELP, I used to associate the word entrepreneurship with starting up, being a founder, being the starter. But being at ELP, listening to all these speakers come in and talk about what entrepreneurship means to them and how they would encourage us to engage with the idea, I learned that entrepreneurship could also be just being part of an early team, starting up a small thing, a small business with your friends, even if it's a person from middle school, not having a registered company, but if she is doing something of her own in the school, it is still entrepreneurship. And that's the way to look at it, to take initiative, to understand risks and take informed decisions, being really quick about stuff, failing fast is what entrepreneurship is all about, is what I learned from ELP as opposed to my understanding from before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like I also learned a lot more about just like the product side of entrepreneurship through ELP. Just like before, I had definitely thought of it more just in a business way. Like you have to come up with a great idea that's going to change the world. Like it's all about the idea. Whereas like through ELP, like a lot of the people in it are like coders or they're engineers. And so like seeing them working on the product first without like any clear idea of how they're going to sell it or like what they're going to do with it was kind of just an interesting perspective I hadn't seen before. And like people in my cohort were building really cool, crazy technologies I just would never know how to do. And it was like cool to watch them do that.
Going off of what Margaret just said, like it really kind of puts in perspective that we take a lot of our technologies that we have in our daily life for granted. It really is like about kind of building something that people love. And I think ELP did a really good job of introducing us to founders that have really like done the thing. So my cohort was able, and I think ELP2 was able to talk to Tony Fidel. And he worked like very obviously, you know, he created the Nest, the Wi-Fi thermostat that every startup company has now, as well as like work very closely with Steve Jobs. And he gave his like perspective as to like, yeah, there are days that are like really, really hard as a founder and really, really hard as like just working at a company, because you're essentially working at a place that the entire world is telling you is not going to work, and you have to believe. So I thought ELP did a really good job of kind of walking us through what is the process of starting a company? What does that actually look like? Who are the successful founders and who are like the unsuccessful founders, and like why did they fail? And kind of like how to handle failure gracefully, but also in a way that is productive.
So a core part of ELP is 2 semesters of coursework. So we have the winter and the fall. What value have you gained from those classes?
Business model canvas is hands down the most eye-opening exercise I have ever done. For each of the case studies or potential venture ideas, we would create business model canvas. You know, every person with an entrepreneurial or a creative mindset is full of ideas, and each of those ideas looks good until you test the viability of that idea as a business. The business model canvas helps us look into key partners, value propositions, revenue streams, and all that pragmatic stuff, which is crucial to consider before taking the plunge. So I think that was something that we were asked to do, and I continue to do, to look at all the ideas that I had, which were lying around as just ideas on some notepad before. But now I was really, it was easy for me to scratch them out as I would test the viability of those and see that this would really not work out for so-and-so reasons, because the market is not right, or the market is too saturated, or it's difficult to acquire the people with the skills to make this a business. something to think about. And I think ELP's training that they gave us with that exercise, the model canvas, was really useful.
I feel like for me, probably one of the most useful lessons was learning about agile project management, just because innately I feel like I do fall into overthinking and over planning and like being a perfectionist before I actually ever do anything, which holds me back as it would hold anybody back in entrepreneurship. So learning about just how to think quickly, be creative, and just scrap anything without any remorse or like any hesitation, it was very exciting for me as like an entrepreneur to see that there's a faster way to do things and a faster way to be a leader. And I like just look forward to like applying that to whatever entrepreneurial thing I'm doing and not spending too much time planning something that ends up not really being useful anyways.
Yeah, going off of that, I would also probably say the iterative process, I think that we learn about for any ELP like prospective students. If you're the kind of person that doesn't really believe in like, it's gonna be weird to say, but you don't really believe in like the school mentality in regards to like everything rides on a test and like there's only one right answer. This is probably the program for you, just because it really shows you that a lot of the stuff that we worry about, particularly as college students, really doesn't matter that much. It really kind of matters like what you do with what you know, not just like what you know, if that makes sense. And I thought ELP did a really good job of kind of reinforcing that. At ELP, the greatest value for us from ELP 1 was just the access to the incredible founders that we were able to talk to, founders and VCs and like startup lawyers and just people who have like lived a life.
So if we're speaking to a prospective ELPer, and perhaps we'll have many who will be viewing this video, what would you say to encourage them to apply to ELP?
I feel like I would say like it's just a really unique program, especially compared to anything else on campus. Like you have the opportunity to learn about entrepreneurship through like a classroom, through your peers, through mentors, through actually doing something, through the capstone project. Like there's never going to be really any other time in your life that you can be learning about something from like 5 different angles and like 5 different perspectives. And it's just been very transformative for me and just like very exciting. And the people I've met along the way, I feel like are going to be my friends within the like entrepreneurial ecosystem and like colleagues hopefully in the future. So why not? Like, yeah, same as what you're saying. Like there's not really any downside to applying and seeing if you can get this amazing opportunity.
I think that if ELP really helps you learn about entrepreneurship, starting up, all that good stuff from all of these different angles, from Java development, from planning out a product, sales pitches, how to seek funding, and doing those things in a classroom setting is so low risk that it would never be that low risk if you're actually going out and doing that. And all the other time you are out of there, it is going to cost you money, because all that time you're not making money, probably not making money. You have other stuff going on while you're still in school. It's a very protective environment of testing things out, learning if it is for you, finding co-founders, finding mentorship, learning from other people's mistakes. And that is something so important to do while you're still at school. So even if you're remotely interested in something like that, please do apply. If you get in, it will be great for you.
So I want to say thank you again for my guests for their time. And I hope that this has helped answer any questions you may have or possibly get you thinking about some we didn't get to answer today. Either way, we invite you to visit cfe.umich.edu/summer and cfe.umich.edu/ELP to check out all the resources available, as well as more information about the various programs, classes, and offerings the Center for Entrepreneurship has to offer. Thank you so much, and go Blue.